Okay. Good afternoon, almost. YouTube. Home Theater Joe here, as usual. I hope y'all are happy, healthy, and doing well. We're going to talk about some preliminaries with the MC1. Uh, some hits and some misses. Before we do that, just got this nice box today. Okay. From my friends here at, I don't know if you see that well, Sweetwater. They have provided me with the cables, well, that I purchased. So uh, these are interconnects, right? So as of now, I'm running R6 or RG6, whatever, coaxial cable. I'm using those as interconnects. They're big, bulky, and long. They do work though. So how about that? But they had these interconnects very reasonably priced, man. And I said earlier, Matt from Sweetwater actually called me. So if you guys do have, and that was a great conversation and also very enlightening. So good on those guys at Sweetwater. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind. If anybody needs something like that, listen, let's get to the meat, the nitty gritty of why we're here. The Emotiva MC1, which I just think that all of YouTube is missing out on. Like, where is the AV community? And I tell you where they are. I don't know. What is it? It doesn't cost enough. I don't know what's going on here, but I don't see anybody talking about it. As a matter of fact, nobody's even done a review on it yet. So we're going to treat this kind of like a preliminary review. What I've experienced so far with the MC1, and hopefully we can do a proper video. I don't know. That format's just kind of difficult right now. So we're going to be talking mostly about the MC1 out of the box. All of this testing was done with no EQ applied. So I think that's something to note here, that this is straight plug and play, uh, no adjustments whatsoever to the unit. Uh, which again, some very interesting things to find out. Let's talk about, I guess, audio right out of the box. Okay, I was hoping uh, for a clear, audible difference. I think this is a good time to say that I'm coming from an entry level AVR with the Yamaha TSR 700, jumping to the entry level processor. Okay, uh, a home cinema processor. So entry level to entry level. Um, and I'm gonna base my experience with the MC1 compared to the Yamaha TSR 700. And I know that's probably not a fair comparison, but be that as it may, let's continue. Out of the box audio, it's really good. It was great. There was and is a clear audible difference moving from the AVR to the processor, the pre-pro. That's just as simple as I can say it. I don't want to throw all these adjectives at you. I just want to share the information. And I think that's the best way to sum that up. Let's talk about the out of the box video for a second, the video processing. And this is mainly tested um, through HD Blu-ray. Okay. That video processing as well was really good. I mean, I don't want to say great. It's really good though. It might be great. I don't know. It's really good. So, hey, take it with a grain of salt. But that's what I was saying. Out of the box video game performance, not good. We'll get more into that later, promise. But that's not why we bought this machine. We had a feeling that this would be the case, and it is. Get to that later. Uh, Well, okay. Let me also add. Of course, this is done without HDMI 2.1. This is done at maximum 4K 60. There was banding. There was holster holsterization. Am I saying that correctly? Uh, you know, pixelation wasn't crisp. Much better off running the video source from a new gen console straight to the display in this case, an LG 77C10. Much better off. Uh yeah, so that's it. So far, as I said, no room corrections, and I would give the audio if we had to go like I don't know, so let's say 1 to 5 stars. I would give this, in my limited experience, 4 stars. And that's with no room correction. That's just out of the box. What I can say is the Yamaha presented everything and what I thought was well and dandy. After hearing the difference between an AVR, the Yamaha AVR, and the MC1 processor, I do understand clarity and separation. I did not realize that I was missing those things, but that's what I got. So we're gonna have to see how the audio plays out after calibration. But as of now, out of the box, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. And I would like to say that I did test 2 channel stereo, and the center imaging was really good. Uh, it sounded really good. So I did while I was testing the Bluetooth functionality, because that is one of the limited functionalities the MC1 carries. I decided to do that in 2 channel and of course 5 channel listening, but the 2 channel, it did very well. I especially noticed that I could not really not tell that there wasn't a center speaker in there. So it was good. Um, Again, no correction applied. So take that for what it's worth. And I want to talk about the demos that I used to um, see what we're working with. And I'll explain a little bit. When I'm talking about movies, I just like to use a scale of 1 to 5 stars. I'm never going to give a 5 star to any movie, but that's just what I would like to say about my what I consider reference quality, what I think good demos are. So let's talk about our first demo. Obviously, Ready Player One. We had to throw that in there, see how it did. The video, I thought it was 4.5 stars. The video was just really good. The audio, I gave it a 4, and it should have been higher than that. And I have this in parentheses 7.1 mix, which I'll get to in a second. But the audio, I did think, that's why I gave it a 4. All right, let's move on. Prometheus, 4K. Both of these are in 4K UHD. Prometheus, 4K UHD. The audio, 4.5. Again, this is a 7.1 mix, which will come into play here in just a second. But 4.5, and I felt like in both of those films, the audio could have been better, like a 4.75, you know, almost a 5, but it wasn't quite there. Our next, oh, I'm sorry, the video for Prometheus, though, y'all. If you're looking for reference quality, audio and video, the video I had at 4.75. Keep in mind, the video and audio are running directly from the LG UBK90 to the MC1. So the MC1 is connected to the display by the eARC, and that's how we transmit information back and forth. So whereas before I had the video running from the LG UBK90 directly to the display, the 77C10, and the audio running directly to the Yamaha TSR 700. So there's a little distinction there, probably needs to be made. Our next demo material was full HD. This was not a 4K copy, but this is a little film called Ninja Scroll. If you haven't seen it, it's it's something else, and it's very. Hey, there we go. Hey, buddy. Hard to find that disc nowadays. Yes, sir. Uh, yes, sir. Oh, I mean, do you mean Prometheus or Ninja Scroll? Because Ninja Scroll's tough, but The audio I gave a 375, which again, I think that was a little low, but that's a 5-1 mix, right? Uh, but it's at 1080p. So look, the video, I mean, four 4.25. Could have easily been 4.5, maybe if it was like HDR or something, but it was still beautiful. Pacific Rim. I had the audio mark down here at 425. Excuse me, 4.25 stars. It should have been 475. That's also a 7.1 mix. 4K UHD. Video, 4.5. Stellar. I mean, really, the video could have been 4.75 on it. Really, really good. The CGI in Pacific Rim is really, really good. There's not many. I'll give you an example. Now I view on things on my calibrated display. It has shown me how bad some CGI can be. Before calibrating my C10, watching Godzilla King of Monsters, Godzilla looked great because you couldn't see much of him. It was so dark. The black crush was kind of there, and you just couldn't really see a whole lot of Godzilla. Upon calibration, I see a lot more Godzilla now, and a lot of that CGI in that movie's questionable. So anyway, little aside there, but Pacific Rim, the video is incredible. It is demo worthy. Now, let me make a clear remark. So after all these demos were done, and I had kind of an idea of how I felt, um, I went into calibration, and what I found was I could the room correction system, that process was not picking up my front heights. And what do we do when we have a problem in home cinema? We have to troubleshoot. We have to find what works and what doesn't, and then maybe we can narrow down the issues we may be having. The first thing I tried was, and I noticed my banana plugs, which these were price plugs, unlike the majority of my interconnects are handmade cables, mono price cabling, 12 gauge, and Seawell deadbolt banana plugs. So those happen to be monoprice, and the connection just wasn't that well going to the plug in the wall and going to the plug in the amps. So I figured I'd change those with the last Seawell banana plugs I had, which I did. The program still did not pick up the front height channels. As we know, the Yamaha considers those front height channels front present speakers, and in their literature, desired the front present speakers to be closer to the front left and right speaker as to accent them, which I now realize was a terrible idea. Wasn't good. It's been one of my problems with my home theater the last year. Nevertheless, I can hear the height channels when they engage, and it sounds pretty cool, but it does get muddled with the left and right front channels for sure because they're just too close. Um, let's see. So the next thing I did after looking at the back of the MC1 was I moved the uh, interconnect from what was labeled the front left height and front right height to front middle height and left right height. Then the program was able to pick up the two front speakers. So we can pretty much figure from uh, that instance that if we only have two height channels in our setup, which was labeled 5.2.2 in the speaker setup menu, we can now say in all certainty that if you are only using two height channels, that the MC1 will automatically label those as your middle height channels, not your rear height or not your front height, but your middle height channels. So that could be a frustrating experience for some if they have the equipment and if they've gone through it. But that was my experience, and it didn't take that long to diagnose. But that is, I think, a very major note to make with the MC1. So in the future, we'll be running 4 height channels in our theater room. We've not built the theater room yet. We have not moved yet. We will move. We will build the theater room. We will put 4 height channels. That'll be cool. And we'll put 7 bed layers down. Okay. So that's going to be a total of 11 speakers, 11 channels to process. I haven't really done much testing since the calibration of the unit. What I can say is that the distance levels of the speakers say, and I double check these with my laser measure because, as you know, I sand and refinish hardwood floors for a living. So I have one of these laser measures to help me calculate distance. Um, the Emotiva MC1 is capable of changes down to the inch. And I found that I had to make maybe 3 changes on those, on the distance from the speakers from their settings. And those changes were in inches. They weren't in feet. Like with the Yamaha, they were in inches. So the Yamaha, oh, excuse me, the MC1 was very accurate at locating the test tones and knowing where they were. Obviously, it is set up as a point 0.2 system, so there's 2 subwoofers. I can assure you they are independent. They do have independent trim and levels and distance. So um, it's aside from the not having the 2 height speakers, which by the way, I said all that to tell you that's why my audio scores were low for these hand-picked UHD movies, these 7.1, and Ninja Scroll obviously was 5.1, but these 3 films were handpicked because of the 7.1 nature, the way they were, I don't know, mixed, right? So makes total sense to me now. Now that those height channels are active, they are dialed in correctly. The one test I haven't done yet is SPF or SPL position. So that'll be the next test where we make sure everything is at reference level. Uh, well, I believe TXX goes 85, right? But most people, we're not going to do that. That's way too loud. So I'm going to do everything at 75. Um, all of that stuff, I think, is relevant to the MC1. Uh, so there is a little learning curve with it, and I also want to suggest this as one of my first impressions: the simplicity. Now, some may view that as a bad thing. There's not a whole lot of menus to dig through. User menus. I have not tried to find a GUI yet. I don't even know if it has a GUI, but maybe, hopefully, it does. Yeah. Uh, so I don't know. It's just been a good unit right now. There are some things that you have to work around, or I don't say work around, not yet, but it is a simple machine. Kind of what you see is what you get, right? But in its own way, I think that's beautiful. And for me, a dumb old floor man from Virginia, that's great, right? We only have 5 selectable sound fields when we're watching content, so we don't have Oro 3D, but we don't have to pay for that licensing either. So we do have the ability to do Dolby and DTS-X. So um, I've been very pleased with it, but there were some obvious things there. Let's talk about games for 1 second, then I'm going to wrap this up. I played Warzone Rebirth Trios at 4K 60, you know, and it was not a good experience, and for 2 reasons. The processor did not want to have anything to do with 4K 60, really. Let's be honest. It didn't want to. 4K 60 HDR was just full of banding, pixelation. It was just not. It was not fair. Um, Having said that, I think this is also a worthy note. Warzone's broken, and it's been broken forever. The parachute thing is broken. The footsteps, they're kind of broken. Sometimes you hear, sometimes you don't. You know, there. I, Sometimes there can be a helicopter right over your head and just smash you, kill you. You never heard it, not one time. So that stuff is broken. The game itself. So not only did the processor not handle it well at 4K 60, on the LG OLED. Maybe that had something to do with it, but the game is pretty trashy. So that's that's not good. No bueno. But this processor was not built or bought with 2.1 designs. With this full new console frame rate and information rate in mind. We're going to watch all our movies at 24p because that's what they're made in, So it's no problem to run a 24p signal, HDR, 4K to a display using the processor because our gigabit per second count goes down pretty much well when we drop that frame rate. Now, when you go 60 frames a second or 120 frames a second, now that information builds up and now you're looking at stuff at well over 18 gigabits a second. So as long as we can fit our information into 18 gigabits a second, which by the way, in HDMI, they've been compressing signals for a long time and spit them out the other end. So the compression is just going to get better. It would be my guess in a few years, HDMI 2.1 will be just as well compressed as HDMI 2.0 was. So here in just no time, all these products that they're making now that are 18 gigabits or 24 and a half gigabit per second chips, they'll be totally usable in the future, right? Yes, sir. I think it is interesting. I think this thing is a contender to many. Excuse me, contender to many, my friend, because that's kind of my issue with one of my issues with YouTube right now. I I don't believe that people have to spend $10,000, $20,000 to have a movie theater experience in their home. Um, and I don't think that people. I don't know. I just don't know why there's not enough attention paid to the everyday average person. Like I'm not an audiophile. I did consider myself a videophile not so long ago. Look at me calibrating all this TV. Blah, blah, blah. The truth is, I'm just a guy, and I love the experience I have with my family, with my friends in my home theater, and it's something that's really cool. It's passed down to me from my dad. Whatever. I'm just getting way off the beaten path here. I think that most people out here, they're just like me. Probably they don't know what everything is all about, right? They just want to entertain, or enjoy a movie and not have to spend that money. So I think that's one of the things that I've always, it's one of the reasons I decided to document all my experiences is because of that. I think everybody should know, like, you can have great performance, with very reasonable money spent. The MC1, I think, is going to be if people can get over the hurdle of just not having all these features that they've been beat over the head with for the last 3 years and told they need, then maybe, um, then maybe people will go to. I can tell you this: the Emotiva has been running out of a lot of stuff for a long time. The last, I don't know, 6, 7 months, I've been looking at their website. Something's out of stock, something's out of order. But let me just say this: this just popped in my mind. It's a beautiful sight, my friends, when I turn on that MC1, and then this massive XPA5 just boots up, and it's got like these red dots on it first, and it's very quiet. And then you just hear it all, and it goes blue, and then an A4, everything turns on. That was fairly much very quicker. So you got like 9 blue lights looking at me, and it's almost like I'm in a trance. I'm like, whoa, it's so beautiful. It's really nice. Sorry, it just popped in my head. Thought I'd say it. The MC1 has been very pleasurable. I did have an experience I talked about last time where when I plugged it up, it just wouldn't do anything but load. That was kind of annoying. Very simple fix. Unplug it, wait a few minutes, plug it back in, boom, bada bing. Everything was fine. So that was good. Yeah, we're about 25 minutes here, so I kind of want to treat this format as like a video. I just don't want them to go too long. Um, I'm very happy right now with the MC1. I made a huge mistake demoing all these movies with not even hearing the height channels. Yeah, I'm a dummy, but I got that worked out. The height channels are now engaged. I went ahead and made new ends probably for nothing. Again, if you only have two heights, don't put them in front, left and right height. That's the moral of the story. They're registering as middle heights. So yeah, it's been fun. The video gaming, forget about it. Just move on. It's not for that. Yeah. Let's see here. What does my man Tempo have to say? Let's go. Hey, it's over the question. It's unrelated. I was wondering if you can recommend a good microfiber cloth for dry cleaning. Yes, my friend, I can. So any microfiber cloth, honestly, but there's a thing here, a real thing, my friend. Okay. So I usually buy mine from Amazon by the 12 or so. And I would get up and walk to my closet and show you that, but I don't want to because my back kind of hurts. Um, I think here's the key. You must, when you first use them, I would not wash them. I wouldn't wash them unless they got dirty, unless you got something on that just, is making them. Obviously, if it dries up and hardens on there, you don't want to use that microcloth fiber anymore. But, I don't want to wash them at first. Here's the important thing with microfiber. After you wash it on a delicate cycle, either in your washing machine or if you don't want to wash a whole load, you don't have a load of clothes to wash, put them in a dishwasher on a delicate cycle. The important thing about microfiber is not to put them in your dryer. When you do that, they just attract all of everything in the dryer. Trust me, they will come out more dirty than they came in. So when you dry your microfibers, my suggestion would be to air dry them. Do not put them. I guess I could have said that like 5 minutes ago. Hey, just don't put them in your dryer. You see, I have a tendency to ramble there and just say stuff that doesn't need to be said. I've really got to stop doing that. That's how these things get to 27, 22, right there. Me just rambling about dumb stuff. Could have just said that. But I love microfibers. Here's another thing I'll say. Never put any solution, any cleaning chemical, anything on your OLED. Do not do it when it's warm. This is something that needs to be done in the morning when you wake up, like after the display has been off all night. You can walk up to it and see it will have dirty stuff on it, like whatever. You, if you would like, what you would do is put warm water to that cloth. Make sure it's very dry because what you don't want to do is leave water droplets on the screen. You'd wipe it down with that, and then wipe it down with a dry microfiber. Um, if you don't wipe it down, you will get watermarks that dry all over it. And again, if there's water beating up or coming off the rag as you wipe on the OLED, you've got too much water on that rag. Never use anything but warm water to clean that screen. No solutions, no nothing. And do not put your microfibers in the dryer. Let them air dry. That's the best thing for those guys. Yeah. So I just really, really wanted to get out my first thoughts on the MC1. And of course, I had the huge flaw with not even hearing the high channels engaged. That's just, you know, I felt like that was important to say. That's why the audio was low. And that's how silly I am. Man, I appreciate you, Tempo. Um, I appreciate everybody in the community. And actually, I'm going to be on the Daily Hi-Fi very soon. The Daily Hi-Fi is oh, you are welcome, my friend. The Daily Hi-Fi is a podcast they do every Monday. It's not on today because today is Valentine's Day. I hope I said Happy Valentine's Day. Beginning of this, if I didn't, Happy Valentine's Day. I will be calling in, doing that show, I believe, next week and talking about the MC1. And I'm hoping that some other people hear about the MC1 and, if they're in the market for a new AVR or processor, they give this, maybe a thought or two. So, Yeah, I think we can wrap a bow on this one, man. I'm having a lot of fun with the MC1, and I'm learning a lot about separates for the first time. So far so good. Few hits, couple of misses, um, but man, the channel, the clarity and the separation I'm hearing, it's beautiful. So I'm just having a lot of fun. All right, I think we can wrap a large sized bow on this one. As always, thank you for listening. Be good. Be safe. Boom.